Good morning, Acadiana. It's Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021, and you're listening to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with the Acadiana Advocate. Their team of journalists print the stories important to our community, and we are happy to read you some of those stories. You can hear Local News Live Monday through Friday between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. on AOC 1, the AOC Community Media channel on YouTube, and on Cypress Street Radio at aocinc.org/CS Radio. You can find print versions of these stories and more at theadvocate.com. We couldn't bring you this community service without the generosity of our volunteer newsreaders. Today, we're joined by Daniel Rayburn. Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for being here. I'm going to get out of the way and go listen on Cypress Street.
Thank you. And good morning to you, Acadiana. It's my pleasure to be here with you once again, bringing you the news. As is the usual, we have quite a few headlines to get to, so we're going to dive right in, beginning with headlines from the Acadiana area. And we'll start here with our first, which reads, Bishop, use Johnson & Johnson vaccine if needed to protect others. And this is written by Ken Stickney. The Most Reverend Douglas Desautels, Bishop of Lafayette, is advising the Catholic faithful to use the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine if necessary, despite what the Catholic Church sees as a link to stem cells procured from long-ago abortions in its production. In an issued statement Tuesday, Desautels joined Catholic leaders Archbishop Gregory Amond of New Orleans, Bishop Michael Duca of Baton Rouge, and Bishop Shelton Faber of the Houma-Thibodaux area in advising Catholics to take the Johnson & Johnson vaccine if other vaccines, the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine, were not available in order to fulfill their roles in protecting others' lives during the pandemic. The Very Reverend Reuben Buller of the Diocese of Lake Charles, speaking for Bishop Glenn John Provost, who is recovering from COVID-19, said that Lake Charles would follow guidelines set down by the Vatican, on which the other Louisiana bishops have based their positions. The Diocese of Shreveport did not return a call for comment. Unlike the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines, Johnson & Johnson used a line of stem cells procured from abortions performed more than 30 years ago in the production of its vaccines, the bishop said. But Desautels said, quote, all vaccinations recognized as clinically safe and effective can be used in good conscience with the certain knowledge that the use of such vaccines does not constitute formal cooperation with the abortion from which the cells used in the production of the vaccines derived. Morality of the vaccination, Desautels said, quote, depends not only on the duty to protect one's own health, but also on the duty to pursue the common good. In the absence of other means to stop or even prevent the epidemic, the common good may recommend vaccination, especially to protect the weakest and most exposed. Desautels noted that the pandemic has been responsible for more than 2.5 million deaths globally and 500,000 in the United States. In Louisiana, almost 10,000 people have died from COVID-19. Quote, thankfully, vaccines have been developed to reduce the spread and effect of this viral killer, Desautels said. Being vaccinated should be considered as an act of charity towards others in our community. I encourage all of the faithful of the Diocese of Lafayette to take this moral evaluation to heart as you make your decision to receive the coronavirus vaccinations as they become available. We move to our next headline, which reads, Acadiana phone calls will soon require an area code. And this is written by Paul Cobbler. Telephone customers in Acadiana and the New Orleans area will have to start dialing 10 digits for local calls this year. but those in Baton Rouge and on the North Shore will still be able to dial 7 numbers to reach a neighbor. The change, prompted by an order from the Federal Communications Commission, clears the way for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline to use 988 as its 3-digit number, much like 911 and 311. 82 area codes in 32 states that currently permit 7-digit local dialing and contain telephone numbers with 988 prefixes, including New Orleans 504 and Acadiana's 337 area codes, will be required to begin 10-digit dialing for local calls by October 24th, according to a planning letter from the North American Numbering Plan Administrator. A 6-month transition period opens on April 24th. Local calls from Baton Rouge's 225 area code will be unaffected, as will those in the 985 area code on the North Shore and Houma-Thibodaux area. Customers there can continue to use 7-digit dialing. Quote, the FCC ordered that any area code that has the 988 prefix assigned as telephone numbers and has 7-digit local dialing be transitioned to 10-digit. Local dialing to ensure everyone is able to reach the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline using the 3-digit 988 code, the Numbering Plan Administration wrote. The FCC implemented the order last year to, quote, aid rapid access to suicide prevention and mental health support services. It established a 2-year period to allow for, quote, widespread network changes and for the hotline to prepare for an unexpected increase in call volume, according to the FCC. Calls to 988 will eventually route to the current suicide prevention hotline, which is at 800-273-8255. But area codes with the 988 prefix, like New Orleans and Acadiana, must transition to 10-digit dialing to, quote, ensure that calls to 988 reach the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Beginning on April 24th, customers in Acadiana and the New Orleans region should begin including their area codes when making local calls. The initial rollout is known as a, quote, permissive dialing period, because 7-digit local calls will still be completed for the first 6 months. Carriers will also be required to send notices of the transition to their customers during this period. Some carriers have already started notifications. Calls omitting the area code after October 24th will not go through. Quote, on and after this date, local calls dialed with only 7 digits may not be completed, and a recording may inform you that your call cannot be completed as dialed, read the release. If you get this recording, you must hang up and dial again, using the area code with the 7-digit telephone number. Once the transition period is completed, dialing 988 will route calls to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline starting July 16th, 2022. Until then, callers to the Lifeline must continue to dial 800-273-8255. The creation of a 3-digit phone number for the Suicide Prevention Hotline should make it easier for people in need of assistance to remember and call the hotline number, particularly in moments of distress, said Raymond Tucker, an assistant professor of psychology at LSU and co-director of the university's National Suicidology Training Center. Quote, the ability to put this as a 3-digit number, in theory, should make it more accessible to people potentially when they need it the most, Tucker said. While customers' telephone numbers, pricing, and procedure for non-local calls will not change in Acadiana and New Orleans, the Numbering Plan Administrator said that safety and security equipment, such as medical alert devices and home security systems, must be reprogrammed to use 10-digit dialing. Many systems already operate on 10-digit dialing by default, but equipment such as fax machines, security gates, voicemail services, call forwarding settings, and your phone's contact list may need to be updated by October 24th to avoid interruptions. Quote, be sure to check your website, personal and business stationery, advertising materials, personal and business checks, contact information, your personal or pet ID tags, and other such items to ensure the area code is included. we will take a short step away from our headlines for this PSA. The United Way of Acadiana is offering free tax preparation. The United Way of Acadiana is offering free tax preparation services through its Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. The program provides low and moderate income individuals and families with free, reliable assistance with filing federal tax returns. There are 12 filing locations participating this year throughout the Acadiana region. Most locations are by appointment only due to COVID-19 safety restrictions. Please visit unitedwayofacadiana.org/VITA for site locations, opening dates, and to make appointments. For additional resources, visit myfreetaxes.com to learn more about alternate free or low-cost filing options currently available. The VITA program is just one way the United Way of Acadiana is working to help individuals and families achieve and maintain financial stability. Learn about additional programs by visiting unitedwayofacadiana.org. Turn to headlines from across the Acadiana area with this. District Attorney moves to revoke bail. Murder suspect accused of beating child's bus driver. And that is written by Katie Gagliano. The 16th Judicial District Attorney's Office has requested a judge revoke the bail of murder suspect Travis Lane Jr. after Lane was accused of hitting and choking his child's bus driver in a Friday attack in New Iberia. The incident happened around 7:30 a.m. Friday at the intersection of Yvonne and Z's streets in New Iberia. New Iberia Police Department spokesperson Sergeant Dacia Hughes said Lane, 34, and Nishana Collins, 29, boarded their daughter's bus to confront the bus driver, who they accused of roughly handling their daughter on Thursday while disciplining her. Hughes said video surveillance on the bus showed Lane choke the bus driver while Collins punched her in the face and head. The video showed the 13 children who boarded the bus ahead of Lane and Collins screaming and fleeing the bus. The driver called 911 while Lane and Collins fled the scene, Hughes said. The bus driver suffered bruises and abrasions to her arms and face and was taken to a local hospital for evaluation. Investigators reviewed Thursday's surveillance footage from the bus and found no evidence the bus driver physically handled the couple's child, Hughes said. Collins turned herself over to police Friday evening and was booked on counts of second-degree battery, battery on a school teacher, terrorizing, aggravated obstruction of a highway, criminal trespassing, and interference in the operation of a motor vehicle. Lane remains wanted on the same counts. The violent altercation has prompted District Attorney Bo Dew's office to push for Lane's bail in an unrelated case to be revoked. The motion will go before Judge Lewis Pittman at 9 a.m. March 16th, according to court documents. Lane is one of 7 defendants accused in the shooting death of 17-year-old Garen Lewis, a New Iberia senior high school senior who was found shot to death in a vehicle near the intersection of Audrey and Renee Street on August 16, 2019. Lewis, the son of Iberia Parish Board member Raymond Shodu Lewis, was described by friends and family at a vigil as intelligent, kind, helpful, and an earnest listener. Lane was formally charged in March of 2020 on counts of conspiracy to commit second-degree murder, principal to aggravated criminal damage to property, and principal to illegal discharge of a firearm in the case, court records show. Lane met his $100,000 bail and was released in the case on January 25th. His bail conditions included a 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew, only leaving home for work, church, or to see his attorney, and not having contact with co-defendants or the victim's family. In their motion, the district attorney's office argued Lane is a danger based on current accusations and past convictions, disregards court procedure, and has failed to appear previously, and is also a flight risk because of his current evasion of the police in the school bus assault incident. Quote, Travis Lane is a serious danger to the community. He has only been out on bond for approximately 1 month prior to committing the newest offense, a district attorney, Alistair Sharier, wrote in the motion. This newest push to revoke Lane's bail is the latest move in a year-long saga. Lane's bail was originally set at $1.02 million and was reduced to $400,000 in March 2020 after he was formally charged, and the number of charges against him declined. His bail was then reduced twice more, in April and September of 2020, dropping from $250,000 then to $100,000. The state objected each time, documents show. Lane was released without having to pay bail on December 14th in response to a speedy trial motion. State speedy trial rules require felony cases to go to trial within 120 days of the defendant's initial speedy trial motion if the defense is prepared and the defendant remains incarcerated pre-trial, barring delays with just cause. The district attorney's office asked the Louisiana Third Circuit Court of Appeal to review the decision, and the appeals court overturned the judge's decision to free Lane of his bail obligation. The appeals court held that periods when trials were barred because of COVID-19 safety protocols were excluded from consideration in speedy trial requirements and were considered just cause for delays in prosecution. Once the decision was overturned, Lane was taken back into custody on January 22nd before posting bail. The 6 other defendants charged in the Lewis homicide are Kendre Leday, Trayvance Bernard, Terrence Atkins, Terrell Hamilton, Bryson John Lewis, and Jabrison John Lewis, according to court records. We move to our next headline, which reads, 3 artists chosen to create pin and poster. Festival International aims to cultivate unity. And this is written by Kristen Ackelson. In a departure from tradition, Festival International de Louisiana announced Monday it would have 3 official visual artists for 2021. After a year filled with social and political division, the organization said it would celebrate the unity and diversity the festival represents by bringing together 3 artists with diverse backgrounds. Quote, rather than selecting one official artist for this year, like usual, Festival has brought together multiple artisans with diverse backgrounds and mediums to create a piece of commissioned artwork that is unifying and unique, said Carly Viator, marketing coordinator. With the artwork recently completed and the 2021 poster soon heading off to print, we're excited to share the piece with the community at the artwork reveal later this spring. The collaborators for the new art piece, titled Woven in Culture, include Nika Meyer, Jerome Ford, and Luann Duhon. Festival International believes that by coming together, its fans, artists, and organizers can rise above societal challenges to manifest something greater than before, according to a prepared statement issued Monday. Mir is a Chitimacha bead artist and river cane weaver. Mir began beading as a child in 1993 at Chitimacha Tribal School and continued to expand her artistry over the years. In addition to beading and cane weaving, she designs and crochets accessories and practices finger weaving, tablet weaving, and inkle weaving. Ford, the painter out of the special collaboration, was born and raised in New Orleans, and this is reflected in his vibrant artwork. As a child growing up in the lower Ninth Ward, Ford said his most gratifying experiences have involved designing and creating. Ford taught within the Talented Visual Arts program in New Orleans until Hurricane Katrina, and then relocated to Opelousas. The final artist for 2021 is no stranger to Festival International. A potter for more than 40 years, Duyal has been part of the cultural event since its inception more than 30 years ago. From volunteering to selling her artwork as a vendor and beyond, Duyal has experienced Festival in multiple capacities. In 2021, Festival International's goal is to focus on the melange of art, music, and love for people and cultures that the event brings to Lafayette and the world, according to a statement. The collaborative artwork is a reflection of the themes of creativity and positivity. Quote, "We look forward to all being together again, both virtually this spring and in person in the future," said Scott Feehan, Executive Director of Festival. "We hope you will join us in support of the celebration this spring, just like every year. Stay tuned for lots of exciting announcements, including our big 2021 art and music lineup reveal. Festival is taking over Lafayette this April in new ways." And now to our next headline, which reads, Transwestern opens second Louisiana office. Transwestern Real Estate Services has opened a location in Baton Rouge, headed by Brannon Pinsnell, a longtime expert on the local market for office space. This will be Transwestern's second Louisiana office. The company has had a presence in New Orleans since 1998. Pinsnell has secured leasing assignments for two high-profile spaces. One American Place, the largest Class A office building in the market, and 3854 American Way, One American Place, at 301 Main Street, is 333,364 square feet, and has tenants such as Capital One, Sanch & Wilson, McGlinchey, AT&T, and Stone Pigman. 38554 American Way is 128,328 square feet and has Amadeus as a tenant. Pesnell joined Houston-based Transwestern in 2018 after nearly 11 years with Beaubox Commercial Real Estate, and previously 7 years with NAI Ladder and Bloom. And with that, we will now take another step away from our headlines to bring you the Today in History, famous birthdays, and the daily horoscope. We'll begin with our Today in History, which is brought to us by the Associated Press. Today is Wednesday, March 3rd, the 62nd day of 2021. There are 303 days left in the year. Today's highlight in history is, on March 3rd, 1931, the Star-Spangled Banner became the national anthem of the United States as President Herbert Hoover signed a congressional resolution. On this date, in 1791, Congress passed a measure taxing distilled spirits. It was the first Internal Revenue Act in the United States. In 1845, Florida became the 27th state. In 1863, President Abraham Lincoln signed a measure creating the National Academy of Sciences. In 1887, Anne Sullivan arrived at the Tecumseh, Alabama, home of the Captain and Mrs. Arthur H. Keller, to become the teacher for their blind, deaf 6-year-old daughter, Helen. In 1943, in London's East End, 173 people died in a crush of bodies at the Bethnal Green tube station, which was being used as a wartime air raid shelter. In 1945, the Allies fully secured the Philippine capital of Manila from Japanese forces during World War II. In 1960, Lucille Ball filed for divorce from her husband, Desi Arnaz, a day after they had finished filming the last episode of the Lucille Ball-Desi Arnaz show. In 1991, motorist Rodney King was severely beaten by Los Angeles police officers in a scene captured on amateur video. Also that year, 25 people were killed when a United Airlines Boeing 737-200 crashed while approaching the Colorado Springs airport. In 2001, a plane carrying members of a National Guard engineering crew crashed in heavy rain near Macon, Georgia, killing all 21 people on board. And in 2019, a tornado roared into the small community of Beauregard, Alabama, killing 23 people. It was the nation's deadliest tornado in nearly 6 years. 10 years ago today, seeking to repair damaged relations, President Barack Obama and Mexican President Felipe Calderón agreed during a White House meeting to deepen their cooperation in combating drug violence and declaring a breakthrough in efforts to end a long-standing dispute over cross-border trucking. 5 years ago today, Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz leveled weathering criticism at Donald Trump's flexible policy positions and personal ethics during a Republican presidential debate in Detroit. President Barack Obama visited Milwaukee to highlight how his signature health insurance overhaul had helped millions of Americans gain coverage. And 1 year ago today, in a surprise move, the Federal Reserve cut its benchmark interest rate by a half point, its largest cut in more than a decade, to support the economy in the face of spreading coronavirus. Stocks rallied briefly on the news, then went into another steep slide. We move now to today's famous birthdays, and they include singer-musician Mike Pinder of The Searchers, who is 80 today. Movie producer and director George Miller has turned 76. Actor Hattie Winson is also 76 today. Singer Jennifer Warnes is 74. Singer-musician Robin Hitchcock has turned 68. Actor Robert Gassett is 67 today. Actor Miranda Richardson is 63. Rock musician John Bingham is 62. Radio personality Ira Glass is also 62 today. Actor Mary Page Keller has turned 60. Olympic track and field gold medalist Jackie Joyner-Kersee is 59 today. Former NFL player and college football Hall of Famer Herschel Walker is also 59 today. Actor Laurel Herring is 57. Contemporary Christian musician Duncan Phillips of the Newsboys is also 57 today. Rapper and actor Tony Locke is 55. Actor Julie Bowen is 51. Country singer Brett Warren of the Warren Brothers has turned 50. Gospel singer Jason Crabb is 44 today. Singer Ronan Keaton of Boyzone has turned 44. Rapper Lil Flip is 40 today. Actor Jessica Biel has turned 39. And finally, rock musician Blower, aka Joe Garvey of the band Hinder, is 37 today. Now, we turn towards the daily horoscope. And we begin with Pisces. which is birth dates of February 20th to March 20th. A change will come with both good and bad results. Stick with what's worked for you in the past instead of jumping into something unfamiliar. Be thorough when it comes to financial matters. For Aries, which is birth dates of March 20th to April 19. Don't wait for things to come to you. Do your part to make things happen. You're responsible for your happiness, so reach out and make the necessary moves to turn your dream into a reality. For Taurus, which is birth dates of April 20th to May 20th. Focus on what you can accomplish. Join forces with someone who shares your concerns and plans, and positive changes will occur. Romance is in the stars. For Gemini, which is birth dates of May 21st to June 20th. It's up to you to figure out what's real and what's false. Problems with authority, institutions, and your reputation will surface if you align yourself with the wrong people. For Cancer, which is birth dates of June 21st to July 22nd. Don't waste time on people who cannot make up their minds or who are reluctant to take action when change is required. Surround yourself with insightful, resourceful colleagues. For Leo, which is July 23rd to August 22nd birth dates. Take a step back and recognize what's unfolding around you. Get out of situations that are unstable or cause you grief. Protect your reputation and position. For Virgo, which is birth dates of August 23rd to September 22nd, you've got more clout than you realize. Buckle up and prepare to take a journey that will change your life. Opportunity knocks, and being prepared to make a move will lead to a brighter future. For Libra, which is birth dates of September 23rd to October 23rd. Be open to suggestions, but don't buy into someone else's dream. Stick to what you do best and build momentum. A productive approach will help you achieve your goal. For Scorpio, which is birth dates of October 24th to November 22nd, stick close to home. Refuse to let outsiders interfere in your personal affairs or decision-making. Fix up your place to suit your needs. A change will motivate you to strive to be healthier. For Sagittarius, which is birth dates of November 23rd to December 21st. Believe only information that's verified. Someone you least expect will lead you astray. Use your intelligence, discipline, and originality to help you overcome meddling. For Capricorn, which is birth dates of December 22nd to January 19th, pour your heart and soul into your work. Professional advancement, financial gain, and positive change are within reach. Make home and personal improvements where you can. And finally, for Aquarius, which is birthdays of January 20th to February 19th. Gather and verify information. Refuse to let emotions come between you and the right thing to do. Don't get involved in someone's problems, or you'll end up over your head. And now, we will return to our headlines. We're going to broaden our scope a bit from the Acadiana area to the state of Louisiana at large. And our first state headline reads, Edwards moves Louisiana to phase 3. Quote, I believe there's been enough progress made. And this is written by Sam Carlin. After seeing the worst spike of the pandemic recede in recent weeks, Governor John Bel Edwards on Tuesday moved the state into the loosest phase of coronavirus rules to date, allowing bars statewide to reopen indoors and resuming live indoor music. The decision to relax the restrictions on business occupancy, gatherings, and other settings comes as most, but not all, regions of the state continue to see improving COVID-19 trends. Meanwhile, Edwards' administration and federal health officials continue to sound the alarm about more contagious variants of the virus circulating before most of the population can get vaccinated. Edwards kept the state's mask mandate in place, but bars across the state are allowed to open to 25% indoor capacity, and bars in parishes with less than 5% of COVID-19 tests coming back positive for 2 weeks can allow 50% capacity. The order goes into effect Wednesday, which is today. And for the first time, indoor live music can resume under the rules if establishments follow regulations laid out by the state fire marshal. Event centers and indoor music venues can open at 50% capacity or 250 people, whichever is less. Religious services will no longer have any capacity limits, though masks will still be required. Quote, I believe there's been enough progress made, and that the reduced positivity is sufficiently spread across the state that we're able to take this step responsibly at this time, Governor Edwards said about reopening bars across the state. We're obviously going to continue to watch it. Gyms will still be under 50% occupancy restrictions, but in many respects, the new Phase 3 order represents the loosest rules since the pandemic began. Alex Box Stadium at LSU and other sporting venues across the state will be allowed to open at 50% capacity. In previous iterations of the order, parishes had to reach the 5% threshold of percent positivity of COVID-19 test before opting in to allow bars to reopen at 25% capacity. Now, bars across the state can reopen and allow live indoor music, though they still must close at 11 p.m. and not allow people under 21. That also applies to the Southwest Louisiana region, which Dr. Joe Cantor, the state health officer, noted is still seeing rising cases and hospitalizations. Quote, do not equate the relaxed measures with there being zero risk. We are not out of the woods by any means, Cantor said. We know what works. We know what prevents transmission. None of that changes. The governor has loosened restrictions at several points over the past nearly 12 months, only to see cases and hospitalizations eventually skyrocket, prompting tighter rules. Officials hope vaccinations will continue to tamp down hospitalizations and other metrics as more people get inoculated in the coming months. On Monday, Dr. Rochelle Walensky, director of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, said in a briefing that declines in COVID-19 trends are stalling nationally, and she was, quote, really worried about states rolling back public health measures. Quote, at this level of cases, with variants spreading, we stand to completely lose the hard-earned ground we have gained, she said. Those variants are a very real threat to other people and our progress. Now is not the time to relax the critical safeguards that we know can stop the spread of COVID-19 in our communities. Not when we are this close. The same day Louisiana loosened its rules, Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced he was revoking limits on occupancy and lifting the state's mask mandate. In New Orleans, officials aren't following Edwards' lead towards loosening rules. As has been the case for the entirety of the pandemic, the city of New Orleans will be sticking with more stringent rules than the rest of the state, said LaTanya Norton, a spokesperson for Mayor LaToya Cantrell. The city, which just eased some of its own restrictions on Friday to bring limits on gatherings and dinings more in line with the state, is still waiting to see whether those changes will lead to an increase in cases, Norton said in an email. Based on guidance from the CDC, The city is also worried that reopening now could allow more contagious variants to spread. State officials say vaccinations, which have been tilted towards older and more vulnerable people so far, has started to make a dent in the COVID-19 trends. Still, only about 14% of Louisiana's residents have received one shot of the vaccine so far. About 8% have received both shots, which give people full protection. Louisiana is set to receive about 38,000 doses of Johnson & Johnson's one-shot COVID-19 vaccine this week, a boost to the state's efforts to inoculate a large majority of its population. The Biden administration told the state Tuesday it likely won't receive another shipment until the end of the month. Next week, the state will get 102,330 doses of vaccine, coming entirely from Pfizer and Moderna products, Cantor said. Governor Edwards, a Catholic, said he spoke to New Orleans Archbishop Gregory Amen on Sunday, a day before Amen released a statement calling the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, quote, morally compromised because of its connection to abortion-derived stem cells. But Edwards said he didn't read Amen's statement as telling Catholics it's completely unacceptable to get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. He also pointed to a statement by Baton Rouge's Roman Catholic Bishop Michael Duca on Monday and said members of his flock may receive the Johnson & Johnson vaccine if no other vaccine is available. Governor Edwards said people won't be able to go to a vaccine site and, quote, be given a menu to choose between vaccines. You do have to weigh this with the common good of ending a pandemic, Edwards said. The fastest way to do this is deploy all the vaccines and have the uptake of the vaccines be as great as possible. Following this, they've listed the new restrictions that begin today, Wednesday, and those include the mask mandate is still in place and masks will still be required. For restaurants, salons, and most businesses, they will be able to operate at a 75% capacity. For indoor gatherings and gatherings at event centers, these will have a 50% capacity, which is 250 people, whichever is less. For religious services, there will no longer be any limits on capacity. For gyms and fitness centers, the new capacity will be set at 50%. And for bars, the indoor capacity will be at 25% or 250 people, whichever is less. And parishes with a 5% positivity or lower for 2 consecutive weeks may have indoor service at a 50% capacity. Alcohol sales will still end at 11 p.m. Live music and indoor facilities will have a 50% capacity or 250 person maximum capacity. For outdoor events, a 50% capacity will be upheld with social distancing. And finally, for conventions, conferences, indoor sporting events, fairs, and festivals, a 50% capacity will be enforced with social distancing. And now, we will move to our next headline, which reads, Panel backs $80 million hike in education spending. Amount is double what governor requested. And this is written by Will Sintel. A key state panel Tuesday voted to double Governor John Bel Edwards' public schools spending proposal, adding a $40 million hike for public schools to the governor's $40 million teacher pay raise proposal. The $80 million recommendation by the Minimum Foundation Program Task Force now goes to the State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, which is set to tackle the issue March 9th and 10th. Bessie has to submit its funding request to the legislator by March 15th, and lawmakers can accept or reject it, but cannot change the proposal. The 2021 regular legislative session begins on April 12th. The Minimum Foundation Program is the formula used by the state to allocate $3.9 billion per year to about 700,000 public school students. Backers of the $80 million request called it reasonable, especially since more money may be available before the session ends in June. Quote, "This is the best route to have something go through the process," Mike Folk, executive director of the Louisiana Association of School Superintendents, told the panel. Caroline Romer, executive director of the Louisiana Association of Public Charter Schools and a task force member, noted that the $80 million would represent a 2.75% increase in public school spending along the traditional target. Basic state aid for public schools has mostly been frozen for the past decade. The Edwards administration opted for a $400 teacher pay raise and $200 increases for support workers only, which are also in the plan endorsed Tuesday. Quote, "We are excited about the opportunity for education," Commissioner of Administration Jay Darden told the task force. The $80 million request was proposed by Janet Pope, executive director of the Louisiana School Board Association. It won approval on a vote of 14-3. The pay raises, like those in the governor's budget, would be reoccurring. Teachers in Louisiana are paid about $4,000 below the 16-state regional average. Good for 12th in the region. Leaders of teachers groups last Friday blasted the $400 proposal as woefully inadequate. Officials of the Louisiana Federation of Teachers and Louisiana Association of Educators voted no on the $80 million proposal because they saw it as inadequate. Quote, "Louisiana educators have been there. They have done their job," said Cynthia Posey, legislative and political director for the LFT. In a statement after the meeting, LFT President Larry Carter said while his group hoped for a bigger request, members will work for passage of the plan, quote, "so that our schools and school employees aren't forgotten." Tia Mills, president of the LAE, made the same point. Quote, "While other states were doing virtual, Louisiana educators never stopped," Mills said. Mills said one of her education colleagues died on Monday. Quote, that this is all across the state, she said, in reference to the death toll from the coronavirus. Keith Corville, executive director of the Associated Professional Educators of Louisiana, said the task force should consider $4,000 pay raises for teachers, $2,000 increases for support workers, and an $80 million boost for public schools. Quote, "By being a little bit unreasonable, you move the conversation," Corville said. Doris Viator, chairperson of the task force and a Bessie member, said the increase for schools and teachers alone would cost $480 million per year, which she called, quote, "a little bit out of reach." Viator is also superintendent of the St. Bernard Parish School System. Last year, Bessie asked the legislature for $80 million in increases, with half targeted for public schools and half to boost pay in school districts where teacher salaries were below the regional average. However, that plan died amid budget problems sparked by the coronavirus pandemic. The Southern Regional Education Board, which keeps tabs on teacher salaries, has said average pay in Louisiana totaled $50,923 for the 2018-2019 school year, the latest available for comparisons. State officials on Tuesday put the average somewhere at about $50,288. Darden questioned whether the tabulations included $1,000 teacher pay raises approved in 2019. Others noted pay is rising in other states, and that Texas has approved teacher pay boost of up to $5,200 per year. LFT officials said lawmakers in Arkansas are considering $2,000 pay raises over 2 years, and Mississippi legislators are debating a $1,000 per year hike. The latest teacher average for Louisiana, which covers the 2019-2020 school year, is $51,566,000 per year, officials said. And with that, we move to our final headline of the day, which comes to us from the world of sports, and reads, LCA girls hitting their stride. Lafayette Christian taking on state tourney rookie St. Charles. And this is written by Kevin Foote. At first glance, there might not have been a huge difference between the top-seeded Lafayette Christian girls basketball team and 5th-seeded St. Charles when the two met in the Division III semifinals at noon Wednesday at Burton Coliseum in Lake Charles. Listen to LCA coach Errol Rogers, and St. Charles is strong at the point guard position and in the post. And actually, his Knights have an elite ball handler in freshman Jada Richard at 20 points per game and a force in the lane in senior Monique Patterson, who is averaging 11 points per game with 10 rebounds. That, however, might be where the comparisons start to go in different directions. St. Charles, with an overall 12-5 record, will be making its first trip to the semifinals. On the other hand, Lafayette Christian Academy, at an overall record of 17-5, has won 3 state titles and was runner-up over the past 4 seasons. Add that the Knights seem to be hitting their stride again, and Rogers is confident heading into the state tournament. Quote, "We had a stretch where we didn't play for about 3.5 weeks," he said. "It was tough. It wasn't the kids. It was me testing positive for the coronavirus. When we came back, it just wasn't the same. At times, it looked like we had never played basketball before. We weren't doing anything well." After beating Karen Crow 70-33 on December 8th, Lafayette Christian Academy's next game was against powerhouse St. Louis on January 5th. The Knights only lost 43-41 and 4 times in a 6-game stretch. But by February 5th, the Knights avenged a home loss to Lake Arthur with a 62-57 road win, and the team's confidence rose. Quote, "We started doing everything better," Rogers said. "We started executing better in our half-court sets, playing better defense, and not turning it over as much. Just in every area, really." Rogers said the good stretch included improved play from Bailey Matthews, Indy Hebert, and Monet Duffy. The winner of this game will meet the Episcopal St. Thomas Aquinas winner in the state finals at noon Saturday at the University Center in Hammond. Quote, "I think this is a good matchup, and I also think the other semifinal matchup is as well," Rogers said. And now, before we end the morning with our funerals across the Acadiana area, we have this brief PSA, which comes to us from the Black Pages of Greater Lafayette. Lafayette Consolidated Government is releasing the latest edition of the Black Pages of Greater Lafayette, a directory of Black-owned businesses. Since the last edition was released in 2019, Black-owned businesses have nearly doubled, increasing from 350 to 650. The publication also includes a few dozen businesses adjacent to Lafayette Parish, mainly in the Rain and Brobridge areas. Since 1980, the Lafayette Consolidated Government and Delta Sigma Theta sorority has partnered to print the Black Pages of Greater Lafayette every 2 years to promote awareness of products and services, support entrepreneurship, and strengthen the economy. Copies are first come, first served, and will be available at the following Lafayette Consolidated Government locations. These include the the Clifton Chenier Public Library, located at 220 West Willow Street. The Lafayette Public Library, Main Branch, located at 301 West Congress Street. The Lafayette City Parish Hall, located at 705 West University. And finally, you can find the Black Pages at the Jesse Taylor Center, located at 111 Shirley Picard Drive, off Mud Street, between the fire station and the O.J. Mouton Pool. And with that, we will end this morning with funerals today in the Acadiana area. There is only one, and it is for Rita Daltrey, with services to be held at the Delome Chapel of the Flowers, located at 1011 Bertrand Drive in Lafayette at noon. And with that, this has been Local News Live for March 3rd, 2021. And I've been your reader, Daniel Rayburn. Join us at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday on AOC 1, Cypress Street Radio, or the AOC Community Media channel on YouTube. You can read these stories and more at theadvocate.com and find out how to volunteer and more at aocinc.org. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Have a great day, Acadiana.